A soldier came home and found his German shepherd starving in the backyard. What he did next inspired millions. The air felt colder than Ethan Miller remembered. He stepped off the long distance bus just as the sun dipped behind the small Texas town he used to call home. His duffel bag hung on one shoulder, and he rolled a small suitcase behind him. He started walking toward the old family house at the edge of the neighborhood. Each step felt strange. He had just spent 13 months in Syria, surrounded by chaos, sand, and the deafening silence that follows. Explosions. Now all of that seemed far away. All he could see were the cracked sidewalks under his boots. When Ethan reached the backyard gate, something inside him changed. The house looked still and lifeless. The porch light was off. The garden was covered in wild grass. Weeds grew through the broken fence. The back door was shut tight, its rusted hinges stuck from time. Mom, Dad, Ethan called softly, unsure. No answer. He walked around to the side door, the one that always jammed during the summer. This time, it creaked open without a fight. Inside, everything was frozen in time. The living room looked untouched. Dust covered the couch. The picture frames hung at odd angles. A thin layer of dust coated the kitchen table. The cabinets were empty. Drawers were half open like someone left in a hurry. Ethan felt his chest tighten. He had no idea that while he was deployed, his parents had lost a house. They had moved out months ago because of money problems. Their letters stopped coming. Phone calls went unanswered. Now he was back, but the home he remembered was gone. He dropped his bag by the door and stepped out into the backyard. The wind picked up cold and sharp. A heavy silence filled the air. It didn't feel real. Ethan was just about to turn and leave when he heard it. A scratch, quiet and soft, then a low, broken whimper. He froze. The sound came from the corner of the yard near the old wooden kennel, now falling apart from years of neglect. He moved slowly, pulling out the flashlight from his backpack. Its beam cut through the darkness, and then he saw it. In the farthest corner of the kennel, a German shepherd lay curled up against the broken wooden boards. His body was thin, skin stretched tightly over bones. Fur was missing in patches. The German shepherd shook with every shallow breath. One of its back legs was twisted in a strange way. Its pale, cloudy eyes locked onto Ethan's. His first instinct was to look away. The German shepherd looked wild, barely alive. But then the flashlight caught something around its neck, a collar, old, rusty, and cracked. Faded letters just barely showed one word beneath the dirt. Axel. Time stopped, moved by this moment. Let it echo. Hit like, tap subscribe, and help keep stories like this alive. For someone who still believes in love and loyalty. And hey, which country are you watching from? It warms our heart to know. Leave your country in the comments. Axel, the German shepherd he had raised as a puppy, the one he had trained, loved, and whispered before deployment, promising, "I'll come back for you." A neighbor had offered to take care of him. Ethan had trusted him. Now, Axel lay in the dirt, forgotten by everyone except Ethan. He dropped to his knees. Axel, oh God, Axel, stirred slowly, painfully. He dragged himself forward 1 inch, then another, until his nose touched the toe of Ethan's boot. He pressed his head against it and gave a tiny weak wag of his tail. Then he collapsed. Tears filled Ethan's eyes, blurring the light from the flashlight as he reached out and lifted Axel into his arms. The German shepherd felt weightless, far too light. His breathing was shallow, His heartbeat faint. Ethan stood, holding Axel tightly against his chest. His voice cracked. I left you, and you waited. For me, you waited all this time. He ran. Through the yard, down the dark street, tears streaming down his face. He dialed emergency numbers with shaking hands, clutching the only soul who never stopped believing he would come home. At the emergency vet clinic, the lights buzzed faintly overhead. Ethan stood in the corner, arms crossed, staring through the glass window into the operating room. Axel lay on a metal table, surrounded by a team of vets, moving fast and focused. One of them, a woman with tired eyes and gentle hands, stepped into the hallway. He has less than 24 hours unless we act. Now, she said, severe malnutrition, dehydration, organ stress, infection. Well, try, but it won't be cheap. And we can't promise anything. Ethan didn't hesitate. He reached into his pocket, pulled out his military ID and his bank card and signed consent form with a firm hand. Every dollar he had saved from his last tour meant for a truck or a new start would now go toward saving Axel back at the house. The silence was heavy. Ethan left the lights off. He turned on a single lamp in the living room and began to clean. He scrubbed the floors, vacuumed the dust from old furniture, washed windows, coated in grime. By the time he stopped, it was nearly dawn. In the middle of the room, he laid down a thick blanket, folded towels, and added an old pillow. It would be Axel's bed. He filled a steel bowl with fresh water and placed it beside another bowl in the kitchen. Then he defrosted some beef, chopped carrots, added rice, and cooked everything into a warm stew. Every move he made was slow, quiet, heavy with guilt and hope. The next evening, the clinic called. Axel had survived the surgery. They brought him home wrapped in a thermal blanket within 4 still, taped to his front leg. A small shaved patch showed where Axel had stitches. He couldn't walk. He could barely lift his head, but he was alive. Ethan laid Axel gently on the bed he had prepared and knelt beside him. We're here now, he whispered. This is home again. Each day became a test of patience and strength. Ethan set alarms to feed Axel every 4 hours. He measured his water, kept a journal to track every change in his recovery. He sat with him for hours, whispering softly and playing quiet classical music to fill the silence. When Axel shook from pain or fear, Ethan opened the windows to let warm sunlight in. He learned how to gently massage Axel's muscles to help with blood flow. Every time Axel lifted his head, Ethan celebrated like it was a miracle. Then, one night, Ethan's past broke through. It started like it always did in the quiet, a memory, a sound, flash. Ethan shot up from the couch, covered in sweat. His heart pounded. He couldn't breathe. His hands clawed at his shirt. His vision blurred. And then movement. Axel, still weak, dragged himself across the floor. Slowly, painfully, he pulled himself into the room. Ethan didn't notice until he felt a gentle nudge against his chest. The German shepherd rested his head there, his breath slow, steady. A quiet whine vibrated in his throat. It brought Ethan back. It grounded him. Ethan wrapped his arms around Axel, pulled him close, and pressed his forehead into his fur. I came back for you, he whispered, voice shaking. But maybe you came back for me too. The room was quiet again, but this time it wasn't empty. The days grew longer. So did Axel's strength. Every morning, he seemed to take back a little more of the life he had almost lost. First, it was just lifting his head, then crawling slowly to his food bowl. And then, one cold morning, he stood wobbly, shaky, but standing. Ethan froze, afraid to move, like the moment might disappear if he blinked. Axel took one step, then another, and then he collapsed into the blanket. But he wagged his tail just once, and that was enough to make Ethan cry. Axel wasn't the only one recovering. Since coming home, Ethan had relied on sleeping pills and other ways to escape the pain. But now, Axel needed him, all of him. So Ethan stopped the pills. He filled his nights with quiet walks in the yard, with feeding schedules, with purpose. He started cooking real meals again, sitting down to eat beside Axel. By the third week, he was waking up early, stretching, moving, breathing. They trained together, Axel learning to walk, Ethan learning how to live again. Their days fell into rhythm. Morning walks through the fog, evening spent sitting on the porch, bathed in soft orange light, the breeze passing gently. They didn't need to speak. The silence was no longer scary. It was shared. One evening, Ethan snapped a photo. Axel's head rested on his knee. The sunset painted everything gold. On a whim, he logged into an old Facebook group for military veterans, place he hadn't visited since deployment. He posted the photo with a short message. He waited for me. I don't know how, but he did. And somehow he's helping me come back. 2. Ethan almost impressed post, but he did. And the response was like a wave. In just hours, the post had hundreds of likes. Comments poured in. Other soldiers shared their stories, their German shepherds, their pain. Strangers messaged him. Widows of veterans, former medics, nurses who remembered soldiers like Ethan. They thanked him. They thanked Axel. And then he got a private message, a short one. I was going to end my life tonight. Then I read your story. Your German shepherd. Save more than just you. Ethan read the message 3 times. He stared at the screen frozen. His hands shook, not from fear, but from something deeper, something he didn't quite understand. He blinked, swallowed hard, and leaned back in his chair. Axel, sensing the change, got up slowly and patted over. He climbed into Ethan's lap, still way too big for it, and rested his head right on Ethan's chest. Ethan wrapped his arms around Axel and held him tight. His eyes burned, and this time he didn't hold back the tears. But they weren't tears of pain. They were something else, something healing. He pressed his cheek into Axel's warm fur and whispered, "We're doing it, buddy. We're actually doing it." And in that golden silence, they sat together. 2 souls who were once broken, now helping others find their way home. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the park as Ethan and Axel walked along a winding path. It was part of their new routine, an hour outside every day, surrounded by children's laughter, rustling leaves, and the kind of normal life Ethan never thought he'd feel. Again, Axel walked proudly at his side. He still had a slight limp, but there was strength in every step, a strength that made it hard to believe this was the same frail German shepherd Ethan had rescued just weeks earlier. They approached the playground. Families sat nearby. Toddlers ran through the grass. The air buzzed with joy. Ethan smiled softly. Axel's ears perked up at the sound of children laughing. His tail swayed slowly behind him. Then it happened. A loud shout tore through the calm. A large German shepherd, wildeed and muscular, had broken free from its leash. It ran full speed toward a little girl standing alone near the edge of the play area. She froze, too scared to even scream. Parents shouted. People ran. Ethan's eyes locked on the dog charging toward the girl. He opened his mouth to shout, But Axel was already moving like a switch had flipped. Axel shot forward, body low and fast. Every bit of his training and instinct came alive. Ethan yelled his name, but it was too late. Axel was already a blur across the grass. He reached the girl just as the other German, Shepard, lunged. Axel threw himself in the way, taking the full impact. The two dogs crashed midair, snarling and growling. Axel bit, clawed, and locked his jaws onto the other dog's scruff. He held it back with every ounce of strength his injured body still had. Ethan sprinted across the field, heart thudding in his chest. By the time he reached them, Axel was still on top of the other dog, his own fur now stained, with blood around his neck and shoulder. But the little girl was safe. Her mother had scooped her into her arms and pulled her away untouched. Ethan dove into the chaos, grabbing Axel's collar and shouting for help. More adults rushed in. Together, they pulled the aggressive dog away. Took minutes. When it was finally over, the grass was torn, the ground muddy with blood. Axel lay, panting on the ground, shaking. His ear was torn, one leg twisted beneath him in a way that wasn't right. No, 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 Ethan said, falling to his knees. He cradled Axel's body in his arms, blood smearing his hands and soaking into his shirt, but he didn't care. You're okay, buddy. Stay with me. You did good. You did so good. Axel blinked slowly. His chest rose and fell with short-labored breaths. In the distance, sirens wailed. Someone had called animal emergency. Ethan pressed his face into Axel's fur. His voice cracked. You save her like. You saved me. Tears fell freely onto the German shepherd's blood-soaked coat. Axel didn't respond, but his tail twitched just once against Ethan's arm. Then it went still. In that moment, surrounded by chaos, sirens, and strangers, Ethan held the German shepherd who had waited for him through war, through time, and who had just given everything again to protect. The video was shaky, filmed by bystanders. Phone, but it showed everything. The loud screams, the charging German shepherd, Axel's leap, the moment he threw himself between a little girl and danger captured the blood, the panic, and the soldier with trembling hands, holding his injured friend. Within hours, the clip went viral. The media gave it a name, The Backyard Guardian. Every major network showed the footage. Headlines read, Neglected German, Shepherd becomes hero. Veterans German, Shepherd saves child. From forgotten to fearless. In just a few days, Ethan and Axel's faces were on every screen in America, but the world wasn't interested in just a soldier or a war. They wanted the story behind a bond that had survived both. Interview requests came, flooding in morning shows, veteran groups, animal rescues. Ethan kept his word simple and real. He never tried to be the hero. I didn't rescue Axel, he said again and again. He rescued everything I had left. He told the world how he found Axel starving in the backyard, how he almost walked away, and how that broken German shepherd saved his life one piece at a time. Every time he spoke, he looked at Axel with the same deep gratitude, a look that said everything, even without words. Then came the invitation. The American hero. Dog Awards wanted to honor Axel with the highest national title given to service. Animals, Hero Dog of the Year. The ceremony would be held in New York City. Ethan hesitated. He didn't know if Axel could handle the travel or if they even wanted all the attention. But that night, he gently asked Axel as if the German shepherd could choose. Axel looked at him, thumped his tail, and nudged Ethan's hand as if to say, We've come this far. Let's go the rest of the way. The night of the ceremony, the Theater was full. Hundreds of guests. Bright lights, music, emotions high in the air. When Axel's name was announced, the room exploded in applause. He stepped onto the stage beside Ethan. His walk was uneven but proud. The lights caught the healed scar on his shoulder. It looked like a badge of honor. People stood. Applause turned into loud cheers. Some guests wiped away tears. Ethan adjusted the microphone. His hands shook. Slightly, not from fear, but from the weight of everything this moment meant. He was forgotten in the backyard. Ethan began, his voice steady and clear. But he never gave up on me. He waited. He forgave. And when it mattered most, he gave again. That he paused. That is what love looks like. That is what loyalty really means. For a moment, the room went quiet. Then the crowd rose again, this time to a thunderous standing ovation. Later that night, far from the lights and cameras, Ethan and Axel came home. The house was still quiet, still familiar. They stepped out onto the porch just as the sky burned orange and gold with the setting sun. Axel laid down slowly, resting his head on Ethan's boot. His breathing was calm and steady. Ethan reached down and stroked Axel's head. No words were spoken. None were needed. The last light of day stretched across the yard, casting two shadows. Side by side, one man, one German. Shepherd, watching a world they had saved and that had saved them. On screen, the final words appeared in silence. They were never just a soldier and a German shepherd. They were the parts of each other that war couldn't take. Thank you for joining us on this unforgettable journey. A story of loyalty, survival, redemption, and the unbreakable bond between a soldier and his best friend. Axel was more than a German shepherd. He was hope with four legs. A quiet hero who waited in silence and rose when it mattered most. If this story touched your heart, made you smile, cry, or believe in second chances, again, we invite you to become part of something bigger. Subscribe for more true emotional stories of animals who save us in ways we never expect. Leave a comment to tell us how Axel's journey moved you, and share this video with someone who could use a reminder that love, loyalty, and healing often come with pause. Because every pause is a purpose and every story has the power to inspire millions. We'll see you in the next